Hello spicy people of the internet, my name is Stand Up Poet aka Crackhead Jack Skellington and welcome to the Spice 8 Rack, the new show that explores the flavour of Magic the Gathering cards with a low budget and even lower standards. In this video I will be helping you answer two simple questions. What is flavour and where can I find it? Is this flavour? Is that flavour? Are these a flavour? Well, I don't know, but I've got to produce some kind of content to subsidise my rent, so let's find that out! Also, yes, this is the entire length of the Magic the Gathering wiki on flavour, and if you can already tell by the length of this video, I expand on it a wee bit. Strap in boys and tell me where we're dropping, let's get right into the meat. The term flavour, or as Americans whose language is silly and wrong would write, flavor, is the emotional and or artistic feel a Magic the Gathering card has. Flavour is ultimately unnecessary for Magic to function as it is, as it has no direct gameplay effects, unless you're playing with an unset or in a flavour draft, but oh boy are those other topics for their own videos. Flavour is, however, essential for an enjoyable experience with Magic. Think of it like being given the choice of eating either a delightfully presented meal at a fancy restaurant or eating the same meal but it's been blended into a paste, poured into a grey bucket and you have to eat it in the back of a second-hand Ford Escort in a Bradford car park. Bet you're all ready to pick option B until I said Bradford, weren't you? Likewise, as Matt Cavotta states in his 2005 article on the subject, flavour is the taste of Magic. Nobody wants to play a game with cards such as card 43.9, which is interplay statistics of 4 and 4 in a game with zones like in-play interactive. You want to play a game where you cast Serra Angel, who soars above the battlefield as a flying, vigilant angel creature with 4 power and 4 toughness. As Magic has developed over the years mechanically, so too has it developed its understanding of its own narrative and how to best represent ideas, tones, characters and relationships within their cards. Flavour is what makes a piece of cardboard feel like an epic creature or powerful spell. It's what turns Magic from a game of numbers into a game of rat wizards and cat dragons. But I am getting ahead of myself. The answer to this is really up to your personal taste and how much flavour matters to you when you're playing Magic. The chances are if you play the game, you care at least a little bit about it, but what I hope this... Am I really going to call this a... Oh, balls to it. What I hope this video essay can show you is that flavour plays an important role in every aspect of a Magic the Gathering card, both aesthetically and mechanically. This graphic from Cavotta's article suggests that flavour can be found in the following places: the art, the name, the creature type, the set symbol, the flavour text, the card's border, I assume he means colour identity, and the artist's credit? What? Let's break these down. The first thing most players will notice about a card is its art, and there are so many opportunities within a card's art to showcase flavour. Some cards depict named characters and show you what they're all about in a single freeze frame. Some cards show certain events and storylines. Some choose to focus on the magnitude or lack thereof of their card's effect. Art has no gameplay altering effects, but good card art should always give the players a reasonable indication of what the effect of a card will be. Someone's getting murdered, someone's getting blasted. This guy has a ghost bear now. Good for him. Look at the proportions on that chonker. Card art also helps distinguish a set's visual identity, setting the location of this particular card's story on a specific plane or even within a specific organisation. The differences in planes can be shown through a number of different artistic elements. For example, the goblins of Dominaria look nothing like the goblins of Kamigawa, who look nothing like the goblins of Ixalan, who look nothing like the goblins in Harry Potter, with their big hook noses and their love for money and their Star of David on the floor of their bank. Ooh, big yikes! Cards in Magic the Gathering have names. For example, this one is Sarah, This is Rupert. This one is Scum. The name of a Magic the Gathering card won't be the first thing you see, but it will be the first thing you read, and has the potential to tell you a lot about the event, character, or spell it's naming. It could mention a family, organization, or location that would tie this card to a player's pre-existing understanding of said family, organization, or location. In sets that explore never-before-seen planes, or planes that have only been hinted at before, this is a good method of establishing the dynamics and facets of a plane society to new players. Names are the parts of Magic cards most easily turned into colloquial slang, where even single syllables conjure up specific effects or emotions in Magic players. The word bolt, for example, cannot be disentangled from the idea of dealing damage thanks to the iconic nature of a lightning bolt. One of Magic's first ever cards, it deals a choice 3 damage for a clean 1 red mana. If a card had the word bolt in its name, an experienced Magic player would expect it to have some kind of direct damage dealing effect. Despite bolt having multiple definitions, to go fast, the thing you put in crossbows, to bolt a door, the bolt of a gun, bolt no longer sounds like a real word, only one of the many cards with bolt in its name doesn't deal direct damage, and that's Boltwing from Dragons of Tarkir, and Dragons of Tarkir sucked dick. For cards that reference previously established characters, change in their names and or art can showcase an entire unseen story arc of a character, or even an entire plane in just a few words. Look at Vraska the Unseen as she was in her first iteration, and Vraska Golgari Queen as she is now. Okay, that was a big segment. Let's do some places where flavour is a wee bit more cut and dry. This part of the card usually tells you what set this card is from, and therefore what plane it's set on. It also represents how rare and often how powerful said card is. Some sets use this to great effect to showcase a hierarchy of importance within this set's storyline. In Dominaria's 2018 storyline, for example, there were minor characters like Whisper, an uncommon card who were not as important in the storyline as Liliana Vess's Lichlord brother, Josu, who was a rare card. In turn, Josu is important to Liliana's personal storyline, but his master, Demon Lord Belzenlok, is a more important figure for the storyline beyond this set, so he is a mythic rare. Wow, that was quicker than expected. Next! Well, more specifically, subtypes. Subtypes are how cards, mainly creatures, are designated into specific classifications, races, and roles, referred to as tribes. You have bird, wizards, human advisor werewolves, and brushwags. Yo, this guy's messed up. Most creature types in Magic have an established tone and image in a player's head, unless they are brand new to the game. When someone says they're playing an elf deck, for example, or that elves populate a certain plane, players have been conditioned by many years of specific representation to picture nature-loving creatures, generating lots of mana to conjure vast forest beasts. Designers are aware of these expectations and can choose whether to conform to pre-established perceptions or pivot to potentially perilous perversions of practiced portrayals. By choosing to stick to a tribe's established identity, designers can further solidify and develop that identity. If they do it well, they may create an iconic card that can't help but be mentioned when people discuss the tribe. Do it poorly, however, and people will call them names like Lazy and Ralph. But by choosing to deviate from a tribe's established identity, designers run the risk of being called even worse names like Idiot and Roger for poorly representing a perfectly good tribe. Why did you have to do werewolves like this, wizards? I get that them not being able to change back like normal represents their corruption due to Emrakul's influence, and the flip side of the card's art is metal as a chainsaw and a bucket of spanners, but just pumping mana into them? That's what does it? You have a perfectly good mechanic that represents things succumbing to Emrakul's influence already, and you even put it on an Eldrazi flip card in this set, you bunch of bloody Rogers! Okay, so colour identity is determined by what colour of mana is required to cast a spell. The colour of a card plays a lot into what it's allowed to do from a gameplay perspective, and it's reasonably balanced. For example, red can deal damage, but can't interact with enchantments. White can interact with enchantments, but can't draw cards well. Black can draw cards well, but usually has bad big creatures. Green has great creatures, but can't interact with spells. Blue can interact with spells, but can't deal direct damage. well, they can't interact with their big creatures aren't very come on! Colour identity also plays a major part in defining the character of people or acts showcased on certain cards. There are a number of emotions, philosophies and common images attached to each colour which cannot be deviated from without introducing other colours into the card. Think of a card's colour identity as its literal true colours. A character like Kambal, Consul of Allocation for example, may want everyone to believe he's just your regular, run-of-the-mill, friendly neighbourhood politician, but in his heart he knows his wheeling and dealing is a greedy abuse of his power. Hence, he is both white, representing his organised outer self, and black, representing his selfish inner self. This character, and the card representing its mechanical effect, would not work unless it was both black and white. That isn't to say that white just means good and black just means evil. Heroic figures such as Yeheni or Toshiro Umezawa are black aligned characters who either are, or simply fight in the name of the protagonist of a storyline. These characters just exemplify the characteristics associated with their colour in a different way. For example, the self and the betterment thereof is a common feature in the morality of black aligned characters, and this can be portrayed in a number of ways, from unempathetic selfishness to a more altruistic defense of one's own kind. In a similar vein, if a white aligned character does horrible things, provided they truly believe their means are justified or righteous, then they can be villains and still be mono white. Frustratingly, all of the above is storytelling territory that Wizards rarely delves into. Almost all of Magic's antagonists have been in some way black, blue and or red aligned. I understand that the philosophies attached to these colours are a lot easier to present as amoral, but Magic's been going for nearly 26 years and as far as I'm aware there hasn't been one primary villain that's been mono green. Vorinclex is the closest thing we have, but he had almost no story relevancy in his block, and aside from him there's... what? Dwynen? Is it seriously just Dwynen? She shot some Boggarts for a 5-minute break in Nissa's extra planar gap year and then she was never heard from again? That's our most recent and well-known mono-green villainous character? Dwynen? Dwynen? Dwynen?
Oh jeez, school.
Okay, what's next? Flavor text. Oh boy, let's get through this one before the sun consumes the earth. Okay, so this is where the real meat... Oh god, I've got to stop saying meat. This is where the real protein of storytelling can be found on cards. Heck, throughout Theros block, a series of myth-style stories were told on a number of vanilla or flavor text only cards. You could put pretty much whatever you want here to inform even the most casual players about the basics of this world and story. After all, they may have missed some of the details if they don't pay close attention to the art, names, promotional material, story articles, wiki pages, books, announced movie, lore threads, comics, YouTube channels, Planeswalker guides, history articles, audiobooks now.
It's too much, it's too much, it's too much.
Storytelling through cards themselves is Wizards' most effective and wide-reaching way of dispensing narrative, and a card's flavor text is the most straightforward way of doing that. Want the players to know that the 3 gods worshipped by the cores on the plane of Zendikar have turned out to be world-eating noodle monsters from the Blind Eternities? Slap it on some flavor text! Want your audience to know that the werewolves previously getting shafted by the full moon every month and killing all of their friends and co-workers are now being used as soldiers in a crusade against darkness and they're no longer complete monsters, more just like sanctified furries? Type that boy up and put it on a card! Want to express that the reason Liliana insisted on going to Amonkhet was to confront one of the 2 remaining demons to which she was bound? Boom! Rewrite that and carefully place it on... Oh, wow, they just wrote all of that verbatim. Really? Just word for word? At least it's not Gorilla Titan. Flavor text can be something as simple as direct speech from a character in the art. Something that shows you everything you need to know about that person you're looking at in one sentence. Show don't tell, kids. I did a 3-year university degree in creative writing, and that's one of the 3 big lessons I took from it. The others were that Carry You by Novo Amor is one of the worst songs to listen to whilst being reflective and introspective about your multiple failed romantic and platonic relationships. And the other was that the 2 dots over a U is called an umlaut. Flavor text is where some players assume flavor begins and ends, and whilst it is an important aspect of a card's flavor, it's only when mixed in with the other aspects of a card that the true flavor shines through. A great example of how to tell a story in the non-mechanical elements of a card is, in my opinion, found on Protection of the Heckma. Just by looking at the name, art and flavor text of this card tells you a whole lot about this specific aspect of Amonkhet's society. The supposed last surviving city on the plane is surrounded by a Wakanda-esque force field that keeps horrors at bay and is a normal part of these people's lives, as we can see with the juxtaposition of multiple horrible zombies and this wee bab and his football. We're also told that there's some kind of god pharaoh, that this society trains acolytes, that these acolytes are a big part of that society as they're not the acolytes of the Heckma or the acolytes of the god pharaoh, they're just the acolytes, so normalized that they don't even have a capital letter. And we can also tell that this society values a force of will and courage, as why else would you force people to look out at this garbage? Ooh, horrid. Go play with that cat instead. You might notice that there's one major part of a magic card which I haven't talked about yet, and which doesn't appear in a red outline in Kavota's graphic. And that's this bit, the rules text. I swear I started writing this as a snappy 5-minute introduction to flavor, but much like a fashion addict with a penchant for compulsively buying wild clothing, I just can't keep my threads under control. The rules text is the part of a Magic the Gathering card which interests me the most from a flavor perspective, and that's due to the Ludo narrative of Magic the Gathering. For those who don't know, Ludo narrative comes from ludology, the study of games, and narrative, the story of something. A Ludo narrative is where these two elements, the gameplay and the story, come together to create a rich, immersive, and in Magic the Gathering's case, a truly flavorful experience. A good example of well-executed Ludo narrative cohesion outside of Magic can be found in games like Papers, Please, where the tedious yet brutal mechanics reflect the bureaucracy of the setting and the weight of your simple actions. The opposite of this, Ludo narrative dissonance, can be found in places such as the final few seconds of Frostpunk, where the game makes a moral judgment based on unseen mathematics as to whether or not you crossed the line, allowing you to get this quote-unquote good ending even if you've been making demonstrable decisions such as forcing children to work until they die or cannibalizing your citizens. For a single image that represents Ludo narrative dissonance, look at this door from Fallout 3. The game element of this moment tells you one thing, that the door is impassable unless you are an expert lockpick, but the non-gameplay elements, aka what you can see in front of you, tells you a very different story. Just climb through the door. You have 9 agility. You have 9. With this in mind, looking at Protection of the Heckma again, whilst the art, name and flavor text tells you that the Heckma keeps the horrors, mainly zombies, that exist beyond the boundaries of the city at bay, its effect only prevents 1 damage from sources your opponents control. This stops soldier tokens from having any effect, but the zombie tokens featured in this set have 2 power and so aren't fully stopped by the Heckma, despite the lore behind this card stating the exact opposite, that nothing gets through the Heckma until, of course, it does. Also, this art depicts the moment the Locust God destroys the Heckma, and yet the card this art is featured on doesn't destroy enchantments.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Every single part of a Magic the Gathering card contributes to the grander story of a plane. Some in purely aesthetic ways and others in ways that shape the gameplay itself. Except for the artist credit, I have still no idea why Kavota highlighted that bit. I hope that when you next look at a Magic card, you can appreciate the work that's gone into making that card feel like Magic. And I hope that Wizards continues to push for more cards, mechanics, and characters that are both fun to play with and interesting to explore. There's a lot more to talk about in terms of Ludo narrative, its cohesion, its dissonance, the potential of flavour within the mechanics of Magic cards, but this script is already over 3,000 words long and I like the idea of producing more than 1 video per financial quarter. I'll save that for a cheeky part 2, why not? Please do leave a comment if you have any questions, compliments or critiques. I want to keep making these videos, so any feedback on the content, presentation, or even promotion would be greatly appreciated. Stay spicy, my dudes.